In Hyperion by David Simmons, 7 pilgrims are chosen to embark on a perilous journey to a distant world of Hyperion, each driven by their own unique and compelling reasons. As they travel, they share their stories, revealing a tapestry of interconnected lives and events that span across time and space. The enigmatic Shrike, a creature of immense power and terror, looms over their journey, its motives and origins shrouded in mystery.
The hegemony consul sat on the balcony of his ebony spaceship and played Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor on an ancient but well-maintained Steinway, while great, green, saurian things surged and bellowed in the swamps below. A thunderstorm was brewing to the north. Bruise black clouds silhouetted a forest of giant gymnosperms, while stratocumulus towered 9 kilometers high in a violent sky. Lightning rippled along the horizon. Closer to the ship, occasional vague, reptilian shapes would blunder into the interdiction field, cry out, and then crash away through indigo mists. The consul concentrated on a difficult section of the prelude and ignored the approach of storm and nightfall.
Hyperion is a 1989 science fiction novel by American author Dan Simmons. It's the first book in the Hyperion Canto series, and it won a Hugo Award for Best Novel. The plot of the novel features multiple timelines and is told from a point of view of many characters. It follows a similar structure as the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. A framing narrative serves to present the tales of a group of pilgrims sent to Hyperion's time tombs to make a request of the Shrike, a metallic creature that is said to grant one wish to any pilgrim. Hyperion masterfully weaves together tales of exploring profound themes of love, loss, faith, and the nature of humanity in a richly imaginative future. The pilgrim stories are not just personal narratives, but are deeply intertwined with the fate of the universe, making Hyperion a captivating and thought-provoking read. Now let's see what the Deep Dive crew has to say about a different type of science fiction fantasy books, the Hyperion Canto series. Buckle up.
Buckle up, folks. We're diving into a world that blends poetry and philosophy and pulse-pounding sci-fi action. Dan Simmons' Hyperion. This is the first book in a series that you need to experience, and we're going to give you a spoiler-free taste of why.
What's so captivating about Hyperion is how it throws you right into the deep end. Much like the pilgrims we'll be talking about, there's this overarching sense of mystery. And Simmons masterfully uses the first part of the book to build anticipation without revealing too much.
Exactly. It's like he's giving us just enough breadcrumbs to keep us hooked, wanting to uncover the secrets of Hyperion for ourselves. So, let's start with the basics. The story takes place centuries in the future where humanity is spread across the galaxy, forming a vast civilization called the hegemony.
And the hegemony, while technologically advanced, is far from utopian. It's a complex web of political factions, religious fervor, and simmering tensions. But the focus of our story is on a single planet, Hyperion.
Hyperion. It's this remote world shrouded in mystery, home to these enigmatic structures called the time tombs that defy our understanding of time and physics. They're moving backward through time, which in itself is mind-boggling.
The time tombs are central to the mystery of Hyperion, and their true purpose is one of the biggest questions Simmons poses. There are theories, whispers of ancient beings, and a connection to the Shrike, a terrifying, seemingly invincible creature that haunts the planet.
Okay, the Shrike. It's like a nightmare brought to life, this being with blades for hands that seems to exist outside of time, appearing and disappearing at will. It's both terrifying and strangely fascinating.
And adding to the intrigue, there's this growing cult called the Shrike Church that worships this creature as some kind of deity. It makes you question the nature of faith when the object of worship is something so terrifying.
Right. Why would anyone worship something so terrifying? That's just one piece of the puzzle. At the heart of Hyperion is this pilgrimage to the time tombs. 7 individuals, each with a unique past and a secret reason, are chosen for this perilous journey.
These pilgrims are where the story really comes alive. They're not just your typical sci-fi archetypes. They're complex, flawed, and deeply human, and their individual stories are as captivating as the main plot itself.
For example, we have the consul, a seasoned diplomat, haunted by a past diplomatic mission to the Bikura, an indigenous tribe of Hyperion that seems to have a connection to the time tombs. He's searching for redemption, but also for answers about a truth that has shaken him to his core.
The console story touches on themes of colonialism, cultural clashes, and the ethical dilemmas that arise when advanced civilizations encounter less developed ones. It raises questions about our responsibility to other cultures and the consequences of our actions.
Then there's Colonel Fedmon Kassad, a hardened military hero known for his ruthlessness in a war against the Ousters, a faction of humanity that lives outside the hegemony. He's driven by a need to confront powerful forces, convinced there's an unseen enemy manipulating events.
Kassad represents the warrior archetype, but he's also haunted by his past, by the violence he's both inflicted and witnessed. He sees the Shrike as the embodiment of this unseen enemy, and his desire for revenge is intertwined with a deeper need to understand the forces that shape our lives.
And how about the priest Leonard? He's this young Jesuit full of religious fervor, but also naive to the true nature of Hyperion's dangers. He joins the pilgrimage seeking atonement for a past sin, but his faith is constantly tested by what he encounters.
Hoyt represents the clash between faith and the unknown. He's grappling with questions about the nature of good and evil, the existence of a higher power, and whether faith alone is enough in the face of overwhelming darkness.
Then we have Martin Slanus, the poet. Once famous, but now in decline, he's cynical and self-destructive, hiding a sharp intellect behind a facade of debauchery. He sees the pilgrimage as a chance to escape his own demons, but also as an opportunity to document the human condition and all its absurdity.
Silenus is the observer, the commentator on the human condition. He sees the follies and contradictions of our nature, even in the midst of a life-or-death situation. He's also deeply critical of the technocore, a powerful network of artificial intelligence that he believes is eroding human creativity and individuality.
And that brings us to Braun Lamia, this tough, independent woman connected to a cybrid recreation of the poet John Keats. She's deeply suspicious of the AI, especially after the cybrid is attacked. She's on a mission to understand what happened and protect the Keats cybrid from those who seek to control him.
Lamia's story raises questions about the nature of consciousness, the ethics of artificial intelligence, and the blurring lines between human and machine. It's a story about the struggle for control freedom and the right to define one's own identity.
And let's not forget Saul Weintraub, a loving father driven to desperate measures to save his daughter, Rachel, who's been afflicted with a strange illness after visiting the time tombs. He's a man of science, but his daughter's condition forces him to confront the limits of his understanding and the possibility that there are forces beyond our comprehension at work.
Weintraub's story is perhaps the most emotionally resonant. It's about the lengths a parent will go to for their child, the power of love and sacrifice, and the need to hold on to hope even in the face of overwhelming despair.
Finally, there's Hetma Steen, the captain of the tree ship Benares, which is taking the pilgrims to Hyperion. He's a member of the secretive Templar Order, and he seems to know more about the Shrike and the Time Tombs than he lets on.
Steen is the enigmatic figure, the silent observer who seems to hold the key to many of Hyperion's secrets. His motives are shrouded in mystery, and his presence adds an extra layer of suspense to the pilgrimage.
And the journey itself is as much a character as the pilgrims. Their voyage across the Sea of Grass, this vast, endless prairie, and into the mountains, is fraught with danger. They encounter strange weather, abandoned settlements, and hints of the Shrike's presence, which keeps the tension building.
It's like Hyperion itself is testing them, pushing them to their limits, and forcing them to confront their fears and their pasts. And throughout the journey, the pilgrims share their stories, revealing their vulnerabilities and their hopes, and as they do, we start to see connections between them. Hints that their destinies are intertwined in ways they don't yet understand.
And that's where Simmons leaves us at the end of the first part of Hyperion, with a cliffhanger. They reach the Time Tombs, but we don't know what happens next. It's like he's saying, I've given you a taste now, go experience the rest for yourself.
And that's the beauty of Hyperion. It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it. It's a story that makes you think, that challenges your assumptions, and that leaves you wanting more. Welcome back to our deep dive into Hyperion. You know, one of the things that makes this book so compelling is how Simmons uses each pilgrim's story to explore a different facet of the human experience. We see how people from different backgrounds with different beliefs and motivations react to crisis, mystery, and the unknown.
It's like he's saying that there's no one right way to face the unknown. We all bring our own baggage, our own fears, and our own hopes to the table. And those differences are what make us human.
Exactly. And speaking of different perspectives, let's delve deeper into the consul's story. We learn about his time living among the Bakura, this indigenous tribe with a seemingly timeless connection to the time tombs. And it's through his journal entries that we see a darker side to the hegemony, a side that's willing to exploit and manipulate other cultures for its own gain.
His story really challenges us to think about the ethics of exploration and colonization. It's easy to get swept up in the wonder of technological advancement and forget about the potential harm we can inflict on others.
And what's fascinating is how the consul's own guilt and disillusionment with the hegemony make him more receptive to the Bakura's way of life. He starts to question his own beliefs, his own assumptions about the universe.
It's like he's undergoing a personal transformation, a shedding of his old self to make way for something new. And that transformation is mirrored in the physical changes he undergoes as he spends more time with the Bakura. He talks about how their rituals, their connection to the natural world, seem to be affecting his body, his perception of time.
It's almost as if he's becoming unstuck in time, just like the time tombs themselves. And that brings us to another important aspect of the consul's story, his encounter with the Shrike. He describes this chilling moment down in a hidden chamber beneath the Bakura village where he sees the Shrike for the first time. And it's not just the Shrike's appearance that's terrifying, it's the feeling of being completely out of control, of being at the mercy of a force beyond comprehension.
Right, and that feeling of helplessness, of being caught between forces beyond our control, is something that resonates throughout the book. We see it in Kassad's story as well, with his obsession with defeating this unseen enemy he believes is manipulating events. His story really digs into the psychological toll of war, the way it can warp your perception of the world and lead you down a dark path.
And it's interesting how Simmons contrasts the consul's more introspective philosophical approach to the unknown with Kassad's more action-oriented, almost militaristic approach. They both represent different ways of dealing with fear, with the need to find meaning and purpose in a chaotic universe.
And then we have the poet Martin Silenus, who seems to be caught between these two extremes. He's the observer, the cynic who sees the absurdity of it all, but can't help but be drawn into the drama unfolding around him.
Silenus is the voice of reason, but it's a reason tinged with despair and disillusionment. He sees the potential for greatness in humanity, but he also sees our capacity for self-destruction. And his critiques of the technocore, this vast network of artificial intelligence, add another layer to the story, raising questions about the role of technology in our lives and the potential dangers of surrendering too much control to machines.
And speaking of the technocore, that brings us to Braun Lamia's story. She's deeply suspicious of the AI, and her journey is driven by a need to protect the Keats hybrid from the forces that seek to control him.
Her story raises questions about what it means to be human in a world where technology is blurring the lines between artificial and real. Is the Keats hybrid truly sentient, or is he just a sophisticated program? And who has the right to decide his fate?
These are big questions, and Simmons doesn't offer easy answers. He's more interested in exploring the complexities, the gray areas, the ethical dilemmas that arise as technology advances.
And then there's Saul Weintraub, whose story tugs at the heartstrings. He's a man driven by love, a father willing to do anything to save his daughter from this strange illness that's connected to the time tombs. His story reminds us that even in the vastness of space, in the face of cosmic mysteries, it's the human connections, the bonds of family and love that truly matter.
It's a reminder that these grand, sweeping sci-fi concepts ultimately come back to the human experience.
Exactly. And then there's the enigmatic Hetmestine, the captain of the tree ship. His motivations remain shrouded in secrecy, but it's clear he plays a pivotal role in the pilgrim's journey. And as they travel across this strange and dangerous world, they encounter these tantalizing glimpses of Hyperion's history, its secrets, and its connection to the Shrike and the time tombs.
And that's what makes Hyperion so compelling.
Yeah.
It's a story that keeps you guessing, that makes you think, and that leaves you wanting more.
And remember, we're just scratching the surface here. We've only covered the first part of the book, and there's so much more to discover.
So if you're looking for a book that will challenge your mind, expand your horizons, and take you on an unforgettable journey, then you need to check out Hyperion.
Trust us, it's a deep dive worth taking.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Hyperion. We've explored the intriguing pilgrims, their individual journeys, and the intricate world of Hyperion itself. But we barely scratched the surface of what makes this book so captivating. As we get closer to the time tombs, the sense of mystery and dread just intensifies.
It's like the time tombs themselves are a character in the story. exerting this strange pull on the pilgrims. On the narrative itself, they're not just physical structures, they're a nexus of temporal energy warping the fabric of reality around them.
Right. And let's not forget the ever-present threat of the Shrike. Those glimpses we get through the consul's journal entries, the way he describes the Shrike's movements as defying the laws of physics. It just adds to the terror and the mystery.
The Shrike becomes this embodiment of the unknown, of a force that operates outside our understanding of time and space. It represents this primal fear, the fear of something that's both powerful and completely incomprehensible.
And the way Simmons structures the book, with each pilgrim telling their own story, it's like he's giving us multiple perspectives on the same mystery. Each story adds another piece to the puzzle, another layer of meaning to the overall narrative.
And as those stories unfold, we start to see connections, echoes and parallels between the pilgrims' experiences. It's like their lives have been intertwined in ways they don't even realize yet. There's this sense that they're all pawns in a much larger game, manipulated by forces beyond their control.
And that's what makes Hyperion such a thought-provoking read. It's not just a thrilling adventure, it's a story that grapples with big questions about the nature of humanity, our relationship with technology, the complexities of faith, and the search for meaning in a chaotic universe.
Exactly. And as the pilgrims approach the time tombs, those questions become even more urgent. What awaits them at their destination? What will they find inside those ancient structures? And what role does the Shrike play in it all?
Simmons leaves us hanging, doesn't it? The first part of Hyperion ends on a cliffhanger. With the pilgrims arriving at the foot of the time tombs, the Shrike looming in the background, it's a brilliant move, because it leaves you desperate to know what happens next. You're invested in these characters. You're hooked on the mysteries of Hyperion, and you need to continue the journey.
And that's what makes Hyperion so addictive. It's a story that pulls you in, that keeps you on the edge of your seat, and that leaves you with a sense of wonder and awe. It's a book that will stay with you long after you've finished reading it, but it's only the beginning of a much larger saga. A story that spans centuries and galaxies.
If you haven't already, I urge you to pick up Hyperion and experience it for yourself. It's a deep dive into a world of poetry, philosophy, and cosmic horror. A journey that will challenge your mind and expand your imagination.
And if you're looking for a book that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page, then Hyperion is the journey for you.
And there you have it, folks. That's our spoiler-free deep dive into the first part of Dan Simmons' Hyperion. We hope we've given you a taste of what makes this book so special. And we encourage you to embark on this incredible adventure for yourselves. Until next time, happy reading.